is something I speak about every year, and it's something that I feel will help us in Elul and specifically with Selichos. The background to what's bothering me is probably what's bothering everyone, which is that Selichos are difficult to say for a few reasons. They're difficult to say because you're tired. They're difficult to say because there are a lot of words that we don't understand and that they're said so fast, we don't even have time to figure out what they say. And number three, they're difficult because maybe if I did it once, I could feel it. So the first Selichos Motzei Shabbos have a power to them. But to do it again and again and again, what's the point? Why do you do it again and again and again? So this week's Parsha, you have something that seems like it's really coming out of left field in terms of what I just said. But the pasuk says, Hishamer benega hatzaras. Be careful with a nega, a blemish, a mark of tsaras, which of course we're not going to translate as leprosy, because it's not really leprosy, it's a mark, but we know that the only impact it has is when a person goes to the Kohen and he says it's tameh, then it's a problem, and if not. It's certainly not a physical disease in that way, even though it has a physical appearance. Be careful with a negat tsaras, lishmor ma'od v'lasos, to guard it very much, and to do kechol asher yoru eschem hakohanim haLevim, whatever you are told, whatever the halacha is that you're told by the kohanim, the Levim, kasher tzivisim, like I have commanded them, because it's all halacha, it's all coming from the Torah. Tishmeru lasos, you should guard it to do. So, just someone that's brave, what do you think the pasuk is telling you to do? Like, what is the purpose of this pasuk? Be careful with a negat tsaras. What does it mean? Keep halacha? Do what you're told? You hear the question, right? What is the Torah trying to tell us by saying be careful with your negat tsaras? Like, what? Do what you're told. So that's at least the second half of the pasuk. Do what you're told. Okay, I don't know why I need to be told that, but okay. But what's the first half of the pasuk? Hishamer b'negat tsaras. Be careful with your negat tsaras. So if someone generally tells you, be very careful with that. So what do they mean? In English, someone says to you, be careful with that.
Don't drop it.
Don't drop it because it's going to break it. You're gonna ruin it. And believe it or not, that's what it means here too. Hishamer b'negat tsaras means be careful with your negat. Don't mess it up. I'm sorry, what? Let's say that you have one of these marks and it has these two hairs that are growing in it, and it's only problematic if it has two. If it only has one hair, then it's not a problem. So come on, we're all Jewish here. What are you going to do? If it comes out to be a negat tsaras, you're going to have to go outside the machane for who knows how long. You're going to have to shave off all your hair. It's going to be very embarrassing. So you see your mark, you take a look, two hairs, and you've got it tweezers. What you going to do?
Take it off.
Done. Easy enough, right? So Torah says that's an isser. Hishamer b'negat tsaras. Be careful with the nega. You have to do exactly what you're told. You can't just go ahead and be mitaher the nega. So far, so good, right? An interesting thing. Why would a Kadosh Baruch Hu say that? But that's what it says in the pasuk. The very next pasuk, and you see the samach here? The samach means that there's a paragraph break. Sometimes it's a pei, sometimes it's a samach. In a Sefer Torah, a pei means it's open until the end of the line, and a samach means that in a Sefer Torah, it's words on both sides. But it's a paragraph break, which means that this is not necessarily directly connected. The next pasuk is Zachor Eis Asher Asa Hashem Elokecha Miriam. Remember what Hashem did to Miriam, B'derech b'tzeischa miMitzrayim. So first things first, let's just translate before we understand and see Mefarshim and say so what. Tums. In any case, what does this pasuk mean? Remember what Hashem did to Miriam on the way. What did Hashem do to Miriam on the way? You tell me.
He gave her tsaras.
He gave her tsaras?
I mean, she said Lashon Hara about Moshe.
Remember that? Does everybody remember? We'll take a look at the parsha quickly in a minute. But the basic storyline, if you don't remember, is that Moshe Rabbeinu either divorced or separated himself just physically from his wife. You remember this? HaKadosh Baruch Hu told everyone before Har Sinai to stay away from your wives, to separate yourself from your wives before Har Sinai. But that was a temporary thing. That was not for the men, it was actually for the women. Because a man who has a seminal emission, he becomes impure, but he goes to the mikvah. A woman who has viable semen come out of her body, means within 3 days, it still can impregnate her. If it comes out of her body within 3 days, she becomes Tameya. So the men were not allowed to be with their wives for 3 days before Har Sinai, so the women would be Tahor for Har Sinai. Yeah? So all the men were told that you're not allowed to be with your wife for 3 days before Har Sinai. And then Hashem says, tell Bnei Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu, you tell Bnei Yisrael, Shuvu lachem lo halechem. Go back to your tents, i.e., you can be back with your wives. There was one person who was not told that, Moshe Rabbeinu. So Moshe Rabbeinu did not go back to his wife, and he remained separate from his wife from Har Sinai and on. When Miriam found out about this, however she found out about it, so she says to Aaron, I don't understand. What makes him different? And the Kadosh Baruch Hu considered that to be some kind of lashon hara, and she got zechiras. So far, so good? Yeah? Okay. Remember what a Kadosh Baruch Hu did to Miriam on the way. It sounds like that she got zechiras. Remember that a Kadosh Baruch Hu gave her zechiras. And if you take a look at Rashi, and I'm going to make this short and sweet, really what we should do is we should look up the Rashi and see it inside and read it, but I'm just, for now, I'm just going to say it short and sweet. Rashi writes, this pasuk, that's what it means. It means, remember that Miriam got zechiras. Rashi asks, what is the connection between pasuk ches and pasuk tes? What is the connection between being careful with zechiras and remembering Miriam? Says Rashi, very simple. If you have a nega zechiras, you can't play games with it. And if you never want to get zechiras, you guys finish the sentence.
Don't do it.
Then remember what Hashem did to Miriam. Yeah?
Don't lashon hara.
Don't say lashon hara. So the two psukim are connected. Be careful if you got it already. And if you want to not get it, then you better remember what Hashem did to Miriam, because when you say lashon hara, you get zechiras. That's what Rashi says. The Netziv, and this is what we're going to talk about today. The Netziv doesn't like that pshat. Why doesn't he like that pshat? He says because Hishamer b'negat zechiras sounds like it's like a very technical thing, right? Be careful with this mark. And how does that fit in? Zachor, remember what Hashem did? What it sounds like, says the Netziv, like the remembering of Miriam is not going to help you not get zechiras. It's going to help you to be careful with your nega zechiras. As if a Kadosh Baruch Hu said, be careful with this nega. And you know what? I know it's hard because I know what you want to do. You want to take the tweezers. And I know what you want to do with the tweezers. So you know what I'm going to tell you, says Hashem? Remember what Hashem did to Miriam. That's going to help me not take out my nega? But you hear how the Netziv is learning the connection? The Netziv says it sounds like the two psukim are connected. Be careful. Don't try to play games with your nega. Leave it there. What do you mean? But am I going to shave off all my head? Are you kidding? I'm going to carbonize how much it's going to cost? It's going to be so embarrassing. Remember what Hashem did to Miriam. How does that help? Okay, so did you hear? So two approaches right now. The two psukim are connected. Everyone agrees. Rashi says the connection is because if you want to avoid it from ever getting it, then remember what happened to Miriam. Netziv says it sounds like remembering Miriam is going to help you with the problem that you have once you have it. It's going to help you that you're not going to want to pluck it out. You're not going to want to cut it off. How does that help? That's the question of the Netziv. So take a look at this. Let's go. Zoom. All right, here we go. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to my tabs and I can't see them. Okay. This is the psukim that happened with Miriam. I'm going to go through them very quickly just to refresh our memories. You ready? It says that the cloud left and Miriam was a mitzoras kashaleg. What does it mean, mitzoras kashaleg? What does that mean?
White is
Like snow.
Yeah, that she had tsaras because this tsaras, what it looks like leprosy, whatever, is white like snow. Okay. And Aaron says to Moshe some really strange stuff. Please, my master, don't place upon us a sin with the word chatos. Asher no alnu v'asher chatanu, which we basically messed up. Don't consider it a chait, this that we messed up. And then he says, Al nasahi kames, let her not be like she's dead. Asher b'tseiso merechem imo, that when one goes out from the womb of his mother and half of his flesh is eaten away. You agree, this pasuk is like impossible to understand. What is it saying? Who's coming out of a womb, flesh eaten? What? What's he saying? But apparently Moshe Rabbeinu understood. But Yitzhak Moshe al Hashem, Moshe davens with a scream, with a shout. Hashem, and he says, Kill Hashem, no. Please or now, yeah? Now, Rifa na la, please heal her. V'yomer Hashem el Moshe, v'avia yarok yarak b'fanah. If her father would spit in her face, let's say she did something bad to her father, and her father responded by putting her in a room, by spitting in her face. Halosi kalem shivas yamim. Wouldn't she be humiliated for 7 days? Tisager shivas yamim mechutz l'machane v'achar te'asef. Let her be closed off from the camp for 7 days, and afterwards be gathered in.
reminds me of your rock.
Well, it's not going to be. But Tisager Miriam mechutz l'machane shivas yamim. So Miriam was closed off from the machane for 7 days, and the nation didn't travel until she was gathered back in. And then they traveled. Okay, so first thing first, did Miriam technically have tsaras? What do you think? Please discuss. Did Miriam technically have tsaras?
They didn't check her.
Some yes nods, some I'm not sure. So you think yes, she technically had. Let's say she technically had tsaras. So does she have to go outside of the camp?
Yeah.
Yes, right? We knew that already. That's in Parshat Tazria, Mitzorah, right? We knew that already. Did Moshe Rabbeinu forget? Why did Hashem have to tell him to send her out of the camp for 7 days? Shouldn't he have known that? Okay, that's one question. I have another question. Well, what happens when a person has a neged tsaras? What do they do next? What's the first thing the person does when they get a neged tsaras? What do they have to do?
Have it checked.
By whom?
A Levi, Kohen.
A Kohen, right? You have to take it to the Kohen? Yeah, we all in agreement about that? Yeah? Take it to the Kohen. Did she take it to a Kohen?
Aaron.
What's going on over here? I have another question. When does a person with tsaras come back to the machane? 7 days? We'll set a timer? Is that how it works?
Once it's gone.
Right. A Kohen has to check it again. And then there's all kinds of karbanos that have to be brought. And what about the shaving? Did Miriam do all that too? So I hope you hear where I'm going with all of this. Isn't it clear that Miriam did not actually have tsaras? It says in the pasuk that it looked like she did, that her flesh apparently had markings of tsaras. And Aaron is clearly distraught about her tsaras. So Moshe Rabbeinu davens to Hashem to heal her. Why should he do that? Just let her go through the process. And Hashem responds, okay, I'll heal her, but she's got to go outside the camp for 7 days because it's like I spat in her face. Huh? So do you agree that this is really confusing? Good. We're going to see one more source and wrap it up. there is a Gemara. The Gemara asks basically this question, and it says, Miriam, mi hisgira. So you know what hisgira means? It's in English over here. Yeah, hisgira means quarantine her. Ah, it's Yanyana de Yuma, huh? Quarantine. Who quarantined? Who was masgir Miriam? Who put her outside the camp? Who paskined her tsaras? Im Tomar Moshe hiskira, if you'll say that Moshe was the one that did it. Moshe Zarhu. Was Moshe a Kohen? No, Moshe was not a Kohen. He was from Sheva Levi, but he wasn't a Kohen. Ve'ein Zara is a Goyim. So a Zar, a non-Kohen, can't see, meaning paskin, a nega. Ve'im Tomer Aaron hiskira, and if you'll say that Aaron was the one that did it, no, can't do it. Why not? Aaron Karov who? Ve'ein Karov roes anagoyim. A relative, a direct relative, cannot paskin negoyim either. That's learned out from it's a machlokas tanam in a mishnah. Whatever it is, we'll take it for granted. Yeah, taking it for granted. The Gemara says so. The Gemara says that a relative cannot paskin a nega. So Miriam is stuck. Why is she stuck? Why is she stuck?
All the Kohanim were direct relatives at that point.
Any Kohen is a relative. Moshe can't do it, so no one can paskin her nega. So what should be the result? What should be the result? What do you think? Is it Tameh?
No, nothing happens.
Nothing happens, right? She's
Yeah,
got a
and you
physical.
can't- Yeah.
You got a physical problem, but in halacha, what's wrong? Ella kavod gadol chalak Allah kadosh baruch hu Miriam osa sha'a. Read, you see this? Kavod gadol. What does that mean?
Big honor.
A great honor gave her HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Miriam at that moment. Ani Kohen, this is God talking. I'm a Kohen. I'm the one that will be maskir her, that will quarantine her. Ani Cholta, I will take her out of the quarantine. Vani Potra, and I will exempt her from anything, all the issues. What a strange Gemara, no? So Tosfos over here on this Gemara, so the Tosfos asks this question. He wants to know what in the world is going on over here. Tosfos says, "Ani maskira, ani chot, ani potra." I'll take care of the whole thing, says Hashem. Besifrei, which is a medrash, Tanya, we learn. Amar Aaron nimtzas mafsid la'achosenu. Moshe Rabbeinu comes out. You're causing a tremendous loss to our sister. She'enu yachal haskira v'lo latama v'lo latara. We can't do anything. Lefi devarav lamadnu. Shahaya Aaron doresh and adam roa benigay krovo v'tema. A relative can't view her nega, and it's an astonishing thing. But ma'aya mafsida. What's the problem? What's the loss? Had the ein adam roa sanegoyim. If no one can view her nega, kol shekain shahaisa tahora. Then she's tahor. What's the problem? You hear? So Arkalov, that's exactly what Tosfos says. So it goes like this. Let's just finish this up. Now I can see all you again in one picture. Thanks, Aaron. The Netziv says, Miriam had a problem. You know what her problem was? It wasn't a halachic problem. It's that there's a separate issue here. Why does a person that says Lashon Hara, why do they get saras? Why does Hashem do that? So you tell me. What's going on with that? What is that?
What was the question?
Why does a person that says Lashon Hara get saras?
I think it's kind of like a nida keneged mida thing in a way. Like by spreading words about someone, you've kind of put almost a public shame on them because it becomes acknowledged by other people. And Hashem is this way of saying this person has, negatively portrayed others. So now he is going to be negatively portrayed, I guess, in a public way.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna add on that, like, if you get zechiras and then like you're leaving camp, like you're gonna be the top topic of discussion whenever of everyone in the camp. Everyone's gonna be talking about you now, because you're like holding.
And then they'll be joining you.
Yeah.
And then they'll be joining you, and it'll be a big party. So we hope that people won't talk about them too much and say Lashon Hara. But yeah, it could be that people will realize how seriously they have to take Lashon Hara because of that. Yep. So says the Netziv, the reason for zechiras is not what you would say is really a bad, I mean, it's a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing. Because if a person did an Aveira, HaKadosh Baruch Hu institutes a certain tshuva process for the Aveira. Did you hear that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu has instituted certain ways that we have to go about getting our kapara. So if a person says Lashon Hara, and the Lashon Hara is, let's say, on purpose, it's not just like a mistake, so the person has to go through a proper tshuva process in order to gain atonement. What would happen if that process is not available for a person? What would be the consequence of that?
It's like a spiritual blemish forever.
It would never be able to gain atonement. That's the problem. When Aaron says that Miriam is at risk of dying, he means that she's at risk spiritually of being completely corrupted and not being able to get kapara. So when Aaron is so upset, this is the Netziv's answer to the question of Tosfos. Tosfos says, what's the problem? So it'll be Tahor. Says the Netziv, in halacha, you're right. But in the realm of her spiritual well-being, she's stuck. She needs the kapara. So it says the Netziv, that's actually what Aaron meant when he said to Moshe Rabbeinu, don't treat it like it was a chait. Treat it like it was just like an accident, like it was a shogeg. Why? What would that accomplish? Because if a person says Lashon Hara and it's a chait, so a person has to go through the process. But if a person only says a shogeg, like an accidental, she didn't understand something, so then the pain of the nega is enough. And then it proves that however he proves that. So Aaron was trying to say, don't view it like it was such a bad avera that she should have to have the process. Because if she has to have the process, she's going to be stuck. And that would be terrible. She'll never get kapara. Okay, so what happens? So Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't agree. So then she's stuck. So you tell me, what's pshat in the Gemara now? When the Gemara says, a Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I'll be a Kohen and I'll take care of it. What's the pshat? What does the Gemara mean? Come on, somebody tell me. What's the Gemara mean?
Hashem will pardon the Avera.
That HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to create an artificial zechiras process for who?
Just for her.
Just for Miriam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, it was a nace. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a tshuva process for her that never existed in the history of the world so that Miriam could have kapara. So when the Gemara says, Kavod Gadol Chalak HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeMiriam, what's pshat in the Gemara? Kavod Gadol Chalak HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeMiriam? I mean, that's something, right? Obviously, she was this incredible tzaddikas that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made like a spiritual nace for her, that she should be able to have a process, that she should be able to get kapara. So now, let's go back to where we started. So now the pasuk says, Hishamer b'nega atzaras. Be careful with a nega. Don't just try to get rid of it. Remember what Hashem did to Miriam. Think it through again. How's the Netziv going to learn the Gemara? What's the connection now between the two psukim? Can you say in your own words? Do you have an idea yet? When a person has a nega tzaras, he says to himself, ay, 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 oh man, stupid, you said Lashon Hara. I don't want to go through this. I don't want to go through it. Get the tweezers. No, don't do that. Why not? Remember what Hashem did to Miriam. Why? What did Hashem do to Miriam? Hashem made sure that Miriam had a process to go through to fix it. A process to fix it. And that process is necessary to fix it. Don't forget how important that is. Are you with me? So when Rashi says, again, let's just go through everything and put it all together so we can refresh and chazer it. When the two psukim are together, be careful, the neged teras, remember what I said to Miriam. So Rashi says, Pashut Pshat is, and if you want to avoid getting teras in the first place, don't say Lashon Hara. And the Chavetz Chaim quotes that. That's true. Rashi's not wrong. It's true. But the Netziv says there's more to it than that. There's more to it. Because what exactly did Hashem do to Miriam? On the one hand, Hashem gave her teras. But there's something else Hashem did to Miriam. Hashem gave her a tshuva process that never should have existed. That's when we saw what's going on in that parsha with Aaron and what he's saying, and that she didn't really have teras, but she had to go outside the machane and automatically come back after 7 days. Doesn't sound like this is real teras over here. This is not how it goes. I mean, the answer is that's right. And that's why the Gemara in Zvachim says, who was maskir her? What happened over here? Technically, nobody could paskin her nega. And the Gemara says, that's right, Kadosh Baruch Hu did it. Very strange Gemara. But that Gemara is so significant, because the Gemara is saying is that what happened to Miriam is that she needed a process to go through. Aaron tried to get her out of it by saying, don't look at it as a ched. Asher no alnu, Asher chad, it was a mistake. The pain of the nega should be enough. Hashem says, no. She has to go through a process, but she can't. So I'll be the one to make the process for her. So the next time a person has a nega tzaras, and he says, what do I need this for? Get the tweezers. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, remember what Hashem did to Miriam? Remember how important a process is? This message is so important for Elul, for Selichos, and for all of our lives. Because we go through so many things. I got a phone call from someone that I deal with a lot, unfortunately. And he has a very rough time, and he hasn't made a real parnasa in years and years and years. It's just, he's one of these people that he's bad mazel. And whatever, I was talking to him, and people like that, they suffer a lot. And what chizuk can you give them? So listen to this. You know what the greatest chizuk is? Have you met survivors from the Holocaust? Have you met them?
Yeah.
Some of them, unfortunately abandoned the Kadosh Baruch Hu to a certain extent because they had a really rough time. We can never appreciate what they went through, not even close. But there were some that maintained their emunah. And the ones that I've met that maintained their emunah, I don't know anyone else that has that type of emunah. Do you know what I mean? Why? Why is it that their emunah is so much stronger than anyone else's? And there's only one answer. Because their emunah was tested. And they stood fast in that test. You could have a person that naturally is very strong. And you can have another person that wasn't naturally so strong, but he's been a bodybuilder for 20 years. And who has bigger muscles and who's actually stronger? The bodybuilder. Even though naturally he didn't necessarily have the same muscles, the same strength as the other person. But because he was working on it for years and years and years, he grew and he grew and he look how far he's come. Spiritually is exactly the same. A person that works on their emunah has stronger emunah than a person that doesn't work on their emunah. And the challenges that we face in life is a process. And the more a person faces, the more they grow. And there's no question that a person that has suffered, unfortunately, nobody wants to go through that. There's no question that the person that has suffered more and maintained his emunah in it is much stronger than a person that never went through it. It has to be. And that's why those people that are survivors, they had incredible, it was like automatic. They automatically look at everything as Min Hashemayim. Hashem, 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 Hashem protects, Hashem saves, Hashem, Hashem, Hashem. And we have to convince ourselves that it's true. That's the message of the process. That's the message of the zechira of Miriam, according to the Netziv. So when we come to Selichos, when we come to Elul, then we know Selichos has a lot of issues. But the issue of why do I have to keep doing it again and again and again and again? The answer is again, and we have to think about what we're doing. We have to do it again. And the next day we have to do it again. The next day we have to do it again. because it's a process. Approaching Rosh Hashanah is a process. And every day is peeling away another layer that divides between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we have to be conscious of it. And we can't just let Selichos be something that's annoying. We have to grab it and say to ourselves, this is the next day of the process. And that's how we're going to approach Rosh Hashanah, and that's how we're going to grow. So I leave you with this, the Pashup shot of the Zechira of Miriam. I don't know how many of you say this. In the back of the Siddur are the 6, some you don't have even more, but there are at least 6 things that we're supposed to remember every day. So if you have the time, it doesn't take long. I usually just do it when I'm taking off my tefillin, is to just say the psukim. L'man tizkor yom tzeischa me'eretz Mitzrayim kol yemei chayecha. Zachor es asher asa Hashem leMiriam. Zechiras Shabbos. Zechiras, all kinds of things that we're supposed to remember, 6 of them every day. So when we remember Miriam, we remember, according to Rashi, don't say Lashon Hara. But according to the Netziv, it's more than that. It's that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a process for Miriam that never should have existed. And that's to remind us every single day that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is putting us through a process. And that's our lives. Our lives is one big process of growing and becoming closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.